Hey everyone, this is Christy again. I just wanted to come on here and share a dream that God had gave me last year actually. This is another thing that I was supposed to post last year, but because of me in my phase of being disobedient, I didn't post it, but I'm posting it now. He had gave me this dream around the end of last year. It was around the end of last year, 2022. In the dream, it was this married couple, husband and wife, and they were talking to me and my husband, and they were like encouraging us about our marriage and everything like that. And my husband went off somewhere, but I went with the married couple, and they just seemed so godly. They seemed like they were on fire for God and that they had everything in order. And the husband seemed like a godly husband, the wife seemed like a godly wife, and they had a child together. And when we were walking, we were talking and talking about the Lord, they were just encouraging me and everything. So later on in the dream, the husband walks off with the son, and he's putting the son away to bed. And I walk off with the wife, and I start talking to her even more. And then as I'm talking to her, she starts to like change and looking at me differently with like some look, like, you know how the look of when somebody looks at you like you're doing too much. Yeah, so she gave me that type of look. And because I'm at this time, I'm asking her more questions, and I'm trying to get like a more things out of her, like of being a godly wife, different things God's been talking to me about, different things like that. And so she's starting to look annoyed now. And she didn't start looking like this until after her husband stepped away. When her husband was there by her side, she was just smiling and talking to me and everything. But as soon as he stepped away, and it was just me and her, she was giving me this weird type of look. So as she's giving me that look, we end up walking into this big room, this big space, and it's like it's like big as a living room. And it's like, and she's starting to get ready and different things like that. And I'm asking her, what is she doing? And she tells me that she's about to go to some club or some party, something like that. And at this time, when she says this, I'm like baffled, because I'm like, wait, weren't we just talking about living for God and doing things right before God? Where is this coming from? So, when she tells me this, I asked her, I was, do you think this is a right thing to do? And she's like, yeah, yeah, I can do. Saying she was starting to say that she can do whatever she wants, and she'll still be fine. And then next thing I know, I kept asking, I asked her again, and then these people who were with her, like her friends or something, they came up, and it was a guy, and he was like, yeah, we can, everything is fine. Like, we do this all the time. Nothing's wrong with this. And so, and she's starting to get, and I start to try to talk to her and tell her, like, I don't think this is a good idea of you doing this. And I was like, why don't you go talk to your husband? And then when I said that, she's like, snap. And she starts saying of how she can do what she wants. She's been doing this for a while. They've been doing this for a while, and it's their routine of what they do. So I'm just feeling some type of way of like, how can I explain it? I'm just feeling like, okay, I'm feeling uncomfortable, because I'm like, okay, I don't think this is the right decision of what you're doing and different things like that. But I'm just standing there to the side. And as I'm standing there, I just see all of these people in the background, and they're all Christians too, and they were all doing the same thing as she was. Like, they were all friends, and they went to, like, somehow in the dream, they all went to the same, like, they were all connected, as in friends, and going to the same church and different things like that. So yeah. And while I'm standing there, it was like the front door changed to almost like a storefront type of thing, that a little boy and his lady walks in. This older lady. She was like she was an older lady with gray curly hair. and she walks in, and she has a red jacket on, the old lady, and she walks in with the little boy, and I'm just looking at them, observing everything, looking at them, and she's walking around, and then she tells me, she was telling me to, because I was about to go, um, yeah, as I was standing there, I started to like, because I was feeling uncomfortable, I was like, okay, let me just leave and go to sleep. And in the midst of that, when I was saying I want to leave and go to sleep, the old lady grabs my arm and she tells me, stay awake and watch. And I'm like, what the? That's what exactly I said in the dream. I was like, what now? But so she tells me to stay awake and watch. And as I stay awake and watch, the little boy, he's behind the old lady, and I pull, and then he starts walking back to the door. And as he walks back to the door, this older gentleman comes through the door, and like the atmosphere changes as soon as he walks through the door, and it starts to feel eerie, and really, it starts to feel eerie, and like you're getting goosebumps and you're scared. That's how it starts to feel. That's how I started to feel in the dream. And when I'm feeling like that, the other people who, the bride, who I was talking to, her and the rest of her friends and them like that, they're still laughing and talking and different things like that. They don't even notice the guy or the little boy who came in. They don't even notice it at all. So when they don't notice it, next thing I know, the older gentleman, he locks the door, and he just takes out this big sledgehammer. And next thing I know, and then the little boy takes out a gun. And as they're doing this, nobody is able to go anywhere. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but it was like some force field type of stuff. They weren't able to move at all or go anywhere. And yeah, they weren't able to go anywhere. So it was just like a little. Okay, I'm gonna pick it back up. Let me back up a little bit. So as the little boy takes out the gun, and the older gentleman takes out the big sledgehammer. During this time, the wife's husband comes downstairs with their son, and it was some other people who came from somewhere else, like where he was. And as the guy has a sledgehammer and the little boy has a gun, he's looking at, like, so the room becomes divided some type of way. I don't know how it becomes divided. That everybody who was with the wife, of like her friends and them, and the other people who they were going with, or going to the clubs and different things like that, they were on one side of the room, and I'm on the other side of the room. And it was a lot of them too, mind you. I don't know how it was just a few at first that I was seeing, but afterwards, when he took out the sledgehammer and the little boy had the gun, there was a lot of people over there with the wife. It was a whole lot of them. And on the side where I was at, it was me, the husband, and a few other people. It wasn't that many of us on that side. And next thing you know, the older guy has like this Joker type of psychotic smile that comes across his face. And next thing you know, he just starts saying different things to in the air. And I felt when he turns to me, into the group that was with me against the wall, he turns to us, and he has like this he is like a hatred type of thing that I felt like he wanted to do something to us but he couldn't, type of thing. And he just kept staring and had the psychotic smile on his face, but he couldn't do anything to us, but you can feel that he wanted to. And So during that, that's when he turns to the wife and them in their group, and he sits them down, each of them in a chair. It was like the wife and the guy who was next to her. He sat them in a chair, and okay, so sits them on. He starts to sit them down. The wife and the guy who she was friends with, who was talking to me when I was trying to convince her of in not going to the club. So he sits them down in the chairs, and they're like crying and have this scared look on their face. And he starts saying stuff to them and holding her face and saying, like, look at you, or what you're doing. Telling her, and she's crying, and she's bawling, crying. And he's telling her to look at her husband. Her husband just has like a sorrow type of face, and like his heart is hurting because that's his wife over there, and she's crying, and he's like has her face like this, and yeah, she's just crying and tears is coming down, and he's telling her, he starts telling her to say like goodbye to her husband and different things like that, and she just starts bawling and crying. And then uh, sorry, I forgot a part. So when he was doing all that, he had to put the sledgehammer down. He actually handed it to me, like, I mean, because at first he had it up, and he was about to like swing with it, but he kept looking at us, and like I said, you felt it that he wanted to hurt us, but he couldn't. It was just like he couldn't. It was just like some type of barrier stopping him. Like he knew he wasn't supposed to. And so he put the weapon down next, and he gave it to me. And I'm holding it and I'm looking like, okay. So when he has everybody sitting down, he has the other people on the other side sitting down in the chair. The one guy who was friends with her, he starts yelling and say, trying to tell everybody to group together and to kill the guy and the little boy. And the older guy says, he starts laughing, and he looks at us, and he was like, he takes the sledgehammer back from me, and he starts saying like we can't, of some reason of why our side is not able to like be involved at all. And after he said that, he told us to leave my side. He told us to leave, the few people that was over there. He told us to leave, and at first we didn't. We was just standing there because it was just like looking at the other people on the other side. We were just standing there, and like our hearts was going out to them because they were screaming and crying, and they were screaming and crying. It was so many of them. Like when I say the numbers wasn't that big at first, when I first seen them and I was trying to convince her of not going to the club, it wasn't that many people. It was like, I guess around 20 people or probably 15, something like that. But this time of when I went to look back over to the side, when he had them sitting down in chairs, or some of them sitting in chairs, the rest of it was so many people. Like I couldn't even count how many people it was. It was so many people. And I kept trying to figure out in my head how this many people get here because I couldn't figure out how that many people got there, because I'm like, I didn't see this many people in the beginning. So when we're still standing there, the guy just starts he starts smiling, and then he takes the sledgehammer and he starts hitting them. And it was just blood, going everywhere. I never seen so much blood. It was blood everywhere. Um, he takes the sledgehammer and when he starts hitting them, like I said, blood was everywhere. And the people who was on the side with me, everybody's started getting started running out the door, and some people were so frightened that um they were running the opposite way we were supposed to be going. But I'll get to that part. But when we were on the outside of the house, um it was like oven. You know how in horror movies, like they throw blood on the window, like a splatter on the window or curtains. That's how it was. That's what we seen on the outside. And we were crying because we know they were dying. And then for some reason, the people on that side could not get past them. Could not get past that guy, that old man. They could not get past him. And the thing was, it was just him, and he was an old man, and this little boy. It was just those two with all these people, and they could not get past them. They could not get past that force field. They could not. It was just like that was their death. That was how they were going to die. And they were all screaming and crying and yelling for help. And then I just, some way I was able to, it flashed back for me to see the bride's face, and she was just had blood all coming down her face, and she was just screaming and crying. And it was just like a sorrow that she felt and a regret. And so as me and the other people, we run outside, there's still two paths. There's two paths outside to take. One with like a street light that has a street light, and then one part had it was like dark over there in the first part of it, but it seemed like a shorter path. And some people, even though they made it out the house, they didn't they weren't being careful. They were being so scary that they ran to the dark path, and on that dark path, there was some type of leopard, or it was like a leopard or a cheetah. I think it was a cheetah. No, it was a cheetah. It was a cheetah. It was a cheetah in the darkness waiting for them, and all we heard was the ram. That was our week, but that's all you heard. And you heard the people start screaming because the cat done ate them up. And then on, so our group became even smaller. And then we were, the husband, he started leading, and he was like, stay close to me. And he tells us to hold hands and for me to stay close to him. And he was leading us through the path. And he had, I believe he had some type of weapon that he ended up getting. But the path seemed kind of it was you we all felt a little bit scared because of the situation that we was just running from, and then we felt relieved because we was out of that and we were walking on a different path. So as he's taking us on this path, next thing you know, it felt like we was walking along for a little bit, but we wasn't. Ended up going through like this portal, and when we got out of the portal, there was people on the other side saying, it's okay, you made it through. And I went to look all over, and it was for any. Oh, okay, this is how best way to describe the portal situation. Do you remember from in the Avengers, the last one, where after Thanos snapped and everybody started coming back through portals from everywhere, like from all different places. That's exactly how it was. People were coming through different portals, and everybody looked like they went through some type of war, and it was like some type of war zone. And the other people on the other side, they was gathering everybody, making sure everybody was fine and stuff like that. And then when everybody was able to mourn and then to think about everything that had happened, they had told us that it was time to rebuild. rebuild a it was like time to be rebuilt, but it like a better place, but just time to rebuild. And yeah, that was the entire dream. And when I first had it, I couldn't understand of him what it was about. And I was just trying to and I kept thinking about it as in like just the married couple. And I remember God was telling me, because I was asking, God was telling me that stop looking at it as in just a married couple. And He was telling me like to step back and to look at it. And then that's when God started telling me that what it actually represented. The as us as believers, we are the bride of Christ. So the bride in that story represented the people who are a part of Christ, who um, who live a certain type of way that we're not supposed to live. Like their outside actions show one thing, but their heart is not there. Like they'll go to service and they'll do all the right things that's on the outside, but the heart is not after God. And that so in that situation of where of in me talking to the bride and trying to convince her not to do it. That's the same thing as in us getting warnings constantly over and over, not to live the same lukewarm life. For us to actually change and to be a part of God and to follow God's way. The part where the her friend was like, "We do this all the time." It's because it's a natural. It's something that's daily done, daily sins that's done that we find that it's okay, but it's really not. And and then when um, the force field part, that was a separation. Um, for the reason why they weren't able to overtake the older man and the little boy is because that was their fate. That was what was supposed to happen. It wasn't going to change because God tells us that sin equals death. Um, they were so used to doing different things and saying that it's okay to do that and still um, be okay with God. And that's not true. That's why God tells us, had told us through Paul, should we continue to sin that grace may abound? Certainly not. Meaning, God, God is going to have grace and mercy on us when it comes to different things in sin because He's still perfecting us until the end. But to have a mindset and a heart that's towards sin, that this is what I'm going to do, and God is still going to be fine with this. I'm going to live my life how I want to on my own rules, and God is still going to be fine with that. And that's not the case either. Um, the other part of, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to remember every part of the dream. Not remember every part of the dream, but go back onto every part. Goodness. Um, Even the part where we end up making it out the house, making it out of that danger. And we were supposed to follow the husband of and on the right path. And other people got so scared that they ran on a path that seemed similar, but it was shorter. And that was a path of destruction because it was something waiting to destroy them. And it did. And everything that we do, we're supposed to follow the Father. God lays out of different rules and different things that what we should be doing. And as the believers of Christ, we've constantly tried to water down the gospel and try to make it fit our own agenda because of if you step back, like God told me with the dream, if you step back and look at everything, everybody's being programmed to worship the beast. It's bringing sprinkled in little by little, and next thing you know, people are going to be devoted to Satan, and a lot of people who are going to be like that is people who are with us now. Um, Also in the dream when I was trying to warn the bride, and she made some evil looking face at me. That's just like when we try to, when God sends people to correct people on a different behavior, and he gets so angry and say, "You can't judge me," when that's not biblical. We're not supposed to be judging sinners. We're supposed to tell them where they're going. But when it comes to a Christian, God even tells us about how we're supposed to go. If the person doesn't listen to you, you go to them with another witness. And if they still don't listen, you hand them over. But everything in the everything's becoming watered down. That is starting to look like whatever your own will is. That's how you're going to get to heaven. So no longer are they making it about following God, because that dampens their style and that dampens the sin that they want to commit. And it makes them feel some type of way. But if we really step back and actually look at things, you're being programmed and watered down to worship the beast. We all look at the signs and the times where God tells us about how in the end of how they're going to be willing followers of Satan. And we look at it like, how can somebody willingly follow Satan? How could they willingly do that? It's over. Remember, Satan's been here for a long time, and he has patience of into different moves that he needs to do to get to a certain place. So he's been watering things down little by little, been telling people, don't you feel like you should do this your way? God is still going to accept you. It's going to be fine. Teach your kids that. You teach your kids that. They teach their kids that. And it keeps going. And next thing you know, then also society is starting to interject even more in how we're supposed to believe as Christians. And it's just like, how much more do you need to see to actually believe, to actually do what God tells us to do? Where God tells us in the Lord's Prayer, not my will, but thy will be done. When is that actually going to be true? Where it's not your will, but actually God's will. So God led me to come on here and to tell you my dream. And like I said, this dream happened last year. And as and God had told me to put it out last year, and I didn't. And that's why I stated in the beginning of the video of me walking in, that was disobedience. So, and I had asked God to forgive me for that, because of him. He gives his prophets and prophetess different dreams and different messages to say to warn the people. And even though I'm doing this now and not the time he told me to, I'm making sure that now that I do everything that he tells me and to actually listen. So I'm pleading with you, please, if God talks to you and leads you to do different things for him, do it. If Before you sit there and continue in a certain sin, pray and talk to God first. Ask God to help you out of it. If you don't know how to get out, ask God to help you out. Sorry, I'm trying to just keep it together. But when I just think about the expression on the bride's face as she was getting beat with a sledgehammer, it was like I wanted to help her. I wanted to help her so bad. Even though she didn't listen in the beginning when I was trying to talk to her, even though she was looking at me with a certain face and stuff like that, I still wanted to help her. But I couldn't. It was like at that moment, time was up. Don't let time be up. And when I say that, I know we don't have control over time, but you do have control over your own decisions. Once we became a part of God's body, no longer are we bound to different things. We have the freedom to let different things go. Please start studying your word. Don't just even take my of what I'm saying, but study your word and truly start to get to know God for yourself. Don't just listen to pastors' messages and different things like that. Yes, it's fine to do, but actually get to know him for yourself. So he's able to talk to you. Because when you're reading his word, that's still him talking to you. Get to know him. Get to know who he truly is. If you're struggling with something, start praying to him and asking him to help you. Because he has given you, God tells us about the fruit of the Spirit. Self-control is one of them. He has given you the self-control to do it. That's why he tells us that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. He's telling you that you can do it. Don't allow the devil to keep you in a space where you're continually falling out of God's will. And then sooner or later, you'll be having a new master that you're worshiping truly. And no longer God, but Satan. All right, I love you. And I'll be continuing praying for you until God tells me to do another video. Remember to pray and keep your eyes on God.